As a devoted scoutmaster, Brian Walker has spent decades teaching children how to canoe and climb hills, abseil down cliffs, pitch tents, build fires and cook bangers. But last year, after more than half a century since he first joined the movement, he was thrown out, he says, like an old slipper. What had he done to deserve summary expulsion? Well, in an outburst which may be considered incendiary in our politically correct times, the British Canoe Union instructor had dared to suggest that a fellow leader, a Muslim woman, might endanger children by taking them out on the water in her niqab face veil. How could she jump in to rescue a scout in difficulty? How could she navigate her own canoe properly beneath her veil? How could she be sure her instructions were being seen and heard? Their questions many people might reasonably ask. But Mr. Walker went on to say Zainab Koftawala, the respected head of a thriving all-girl scout pack in her hometown of Hickmondwick, West Yorkshire, looked like Darth Vader. And he added that the sight of someone doing adventure sports in a full-face veil would be incongruous enough to scare children and animals. Clearly, Mr. Walker, 63, is a man with robust opinions and a right turn of phrase, a trait he shares with former Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson, who recently compared women in burqas to bank robbers and said they looked like letterboxes. The Scout Association did not approve, declaring Mr. Wilson to be in breach of its diversity and equality rules. Share this article. Share. He was dismissed from his post as assistant leader of an Explorer Scout pack in his home city of Bristol by a letter, which stated that his views do not fit within the Equal Opportunities Policy or the Scout values of integrity, respect, care and belief. He was forbidden from wearing his uniform and badges or having anything to do with Scout Association paperwork, never mind children. But now, 18 months later, he has won an unexpected reprieve. As a county court judge prepared to rule on the row, the association capitulated, paying him damages and costs. He is donating the check to charity. The victory, which owes much to the help given to Mr. Walker by the Christian Legal Center, is a Pyrrhic one for him personally. The Scout Association won't apologize and has publicly said it still doesn't approve of his comments. But more broadly, his story once again raises the impossible question of where the fault line lies between civilized opinion and unacceptable prejudice. Speaking to the Mail on Sunday in the semi-detached home he shares with his wife, Annie, near Bristol, he says the whole experience has left him feeling bruised and sad about the direction he feels the Scouts are heading. This was never, ever a personal attack, he says. The very fact that this woman is a Scout leader means she shares my values, my belief in volunteering and giving something back society. But her outfit says a lot more about Islam than it does about scouting. You can't go abseiling in a niqab. I'm not sure about hiking, and I don't agree with canoeing. She's at risk of drowning herself, not to mention the fact that it compromises her ability to keep Scouts safe. The movement is about to implode under the weight of its own dogma and absurdity. I took a stand for freedom of thought and freedom of speech. The quite not extraordinary saga traces back to March 2017, when Mr. Walker took umbrage at the spring edition of the Scouts quarterly magazine, Scouting. He and his wife Annie are evangelical Christians, just like Chief Scout Bear Grylls, and Mr. Walker was unhappy with the gushing profile of Mrs. Kaptawala in her full Islamic veil. The magazine, which included a faith calendar, said Zainab cuts a striking figure when she takes the girls out canoeing or goes hiking through the Yorkshire Hills. The calendar promoted Islam, Buddhism and even the Indian faith of Jainism with brief mentions of Christmas and Easter. Mr. Walker sent the editor a private email, never intended for circulation or publication, asking him to reconsider this kind of coverage. He doesn't think of himself as a bigot or as a xenophobe, having traveled extensively in more than 60 countries, learned Spanish in Ecuador and karate in Japan, been up the Amazon, and survived a military coup in Paraguay. He was, however, angered by the drift from what he sees as core scouting values and beliefs that trace back to Lord Baden-Powell, who founded the movement on Christian principles while wishing it to welcome people of all faiths. "How sad and disappointed I am," Mr. Walker wrote, "that the whole Scout mission is to push a politically correct agenda of multi-faith brainwashing, anything that denigrates Christianity." In the magazine, children are encouraged to visit a Sikh temple or a mosque, yet for a St. George's Day celebration are told, choose your venue carefully. The use of non-religious buildings can ensure the event is welcome to all. In the faith calendar, no mention is made of the real meaning of the two biggest Christian festivals, Christmas or Easter. Then came his Darth Vader comments and criticism of the association's commitment to LGBT education, unwisely saying camp takes on a whole different meaning, and told the editorial team he didn't like the magazine's cover picture either. It was a child in a New Age unicorn suit blowing bubbles with bubblegum. Just irrelevant. Scouting has gone fluffy. I don't make any apology for saying so. His email was passed to Tim Kidd, the association's chief commissioner, who sent it to Mr. Walker's local group, setting in motion the train of events that would see him expelled. He appealed against the decision, but found himself still barred. Then, with the help of the Christian Legal Center, Mr. Walker brought a claim against the association, accusing it of discrimination against his own religious beliefs. The Scout Association agreed an out-of-court settlement, but for the moment he remains barred. Mr. Walker is one of life's volunteers, having been in 21 SAS, the territorial branch of the Special Air Service, and the RAF Auxiliary. When he lived in Australia for 15 years, he was a reservist military medic and army engineer there too. 3 years ago, to mark his 60th birthday, he spent 2 weeks and £3,000 of his own money. He is an electrician by trade, so that was a significant sum, in Uganda building an orphanage. So what are the thoughts of his wife of 28 years, Annie, a former police officer and now full-time carer to their eldest son Liam, who is severely disabled? "I'm proud of Brian," she says. "I think he was brave to take a stand, but I have never doubted my husband's courage, whether he was hopping on a helicopter to Kosovo or climbing this particular political mountain. I backed him going public with the court case because I felt that, if this could happen to us, it could be happening to others too. I wanted us to have a voice. Throughout the controversy, Mrs. Kaptawala has retained a dignified silence. In the magazine, she described herself as bossy and adventurous and made a powerful defense of her choice to be veiled. I am who I am with or without the veil. It's not a barrier, it doesn't stop me from doing anything. Today, she declines to elaborate on those comments. Mewish Siddiqui, a fellow leader at First to Command with Answer Scouts, said Zainab is a very conservative Muslim and wears the niqab all the time. She's always up for anything and wears her niqab for the sports activities like canoeing. It doesn't get in the way. Last night, the Scout Association declined to say whether it agreed the niqab was safe for taking scouts canoeing and hiking. A spokesperson confirmed it had settled out of court but added, "This does not imply that we accept Mr. Walker's claim made against us or his view of the world." The Scouts do not accept Mr. Walker was right when he made his offensive comments. As a charity, we had to weigh up whether it was worth using our limited time and money on a costly and prolonged legal dispute. In this case, we decided it was in our best interests to settle this matter out of court. Mr. Wilson is, characteristically, unrepentant, saying, "I don't regret my Darth Vader quip because it has brought the issue to the fore and begun."